Hi, my name is Nicole and I'm here to interview my sporting hero.
Hi, I'm Jonny. I'm obviously the sporting hero. I played Ulster representative at underage and Irish representative rugby at underage as well. And now I just currently play a bit of social rugby, work as a rugby development officer for Ulster Rugby now.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
I grew up just outside in Newry, just in George Pass out in the country, so wasn't really a particularly big rugby area or whatever, but just out in the country there, just my mum, dad and my brother, but a bit of a rugby family, and I think that's why we ended up being sent outside in Newry to Armagh to play rugby up there.
Okay. What was your childhood like?
Fairly relaxed, normal, kind of think mum and dad did best by us and supplied for us quite well, so we were more than comfortable whenever we wanted things or whatever, and especially when it was anything to do with our sport or anything, our education. There was no problem getting that or whatever, but it was good now. We'd commute obviously to Armagh for school and things, but which wasn't the best, but it was grand, 100%.
What was your sporting hero growing up?
I think anybody that played rugby, I suppose, but at the time there was a winger played for Ireland, Simon Gagan, and he was just rapid, very fast rugby player, played against the All Blacks and scored a wonder try on the outside, and it was probably one of my first experiences of watching rugby on the TV, so he became a hero. At that stage I played on the wing as well, but obviously as I got a bit bigger and the pace started to drop away, that maybe fell away too, but he was my first probably sporting hero or whatever.
Who or what influenced you to get involved in sport?
Probably just my dad. My grandfather had played rugby for Trinity, and so he had big rugby links that way. I think my dad was a builder most of his life, so he didn't really have an opportunity to play himself until he was about 30, and then he took up playing, and we would have grown up as kids, myself and my brother, at the rugby club, around just the whole rugby social aspect of it. So I think it was probably the next progression for it was for us to go, and as I say, then once we left primary school, my dad had a fair idea that he wanted us to play rugby, so he sent us outside in Newry up to Armagh to a rugby school, so probably more to do with the rugby values and things than anything else.
What was the highlight of your sporting career?
I suppose wearing an Irish jersey is pretty special, and standing in front of a couple of thousand people singing the national anthem, and being able maybe to pick your parents out of the crowd is something pretty special. But I think probably the main thing that stood out for me was winning the Schools Cup when I was at school. You play with people on an Ireland team that you've maybe only trained with for a few months, whereas you come the whole way through school with your mates and things. So that was a pretty special experience, finishing your rugby in your school, winning the Schools Cup on St Patrick's Day in Ravenhill in front of all the supporters from the school and all your parents, family and friends and everything, so that was pretty special now.
Did you ever get nervous when your family went to watch you play?
I probably was nervous all the time when I played. Probably a little bit more nervous whenever my dad came to watch me play, or still does, but just because he's a pretty harsh critic of me. It's usually the backlash of how I played at the end of it that I'm usually nervous about, rather than him being there or whatever. But he'd be fairly critical of how my game maybe went, so he would pick that up. So that would be the only thing that made me kind of nervous about it now. But it was grand most of the time.
What was your favourite part of sport?
I suppose rugby being a contact sport is the physicality of the whole thing. It's it was a real good opportunity to go out and think to yourself, well, I've got a free opportunity to take out my opposite number here and really get stuck into someone. It was good fun, but again, with rugby, the values and the discipline that comes along with that, at the end of it, you might have ended up with a scrap or a tussle with somebody on the ground, and at the end of the match you're going into the clubhouse later having a drink or whatever and having a chat with that opposite number. And I think that's something that probably stands fast with rugby, maybe over other sports, is that kind of values that it has within it.
Who was your enemies when you were playing?
I suppose anybody that was my opposite player. I think one of my kind of thoughts whenever I entered the pitch was the person on the opposite side of me to make sure that I was better than them. So if I had known that I was playing against my opposition for an Irish jersey, I would have made sure that I had to stand higher than them, if you know what I mean, during the match. So I wouldn't say I had any direct enemies as players or anything, but as long as they were wearing a jersey that could be opposition to me, that was always just going to be the full enemy, if you know what I mean.
Is there a team that you hated playing for any reason?
Within club rugby, or probably when I was playing at Ballyhinch, it would have been probably Malone at the time, because there were only 2 Ulster teams within the All-Ireland League within that league, so that was quite close rivalry, so it was when we were there. So there was a couple of tough matches against them, but again, maybe representative wise, wearing an Irish jersey and playing against England again, something pretty special, because it's the old enemy, I think, for any Celtic team, is to be playing against England. So that was pretty tough against them guys, so I'd say they would probably be the one.
Do you have any different feelings every time you step onto the pitch?
I suppose it depends on the match and how relevant the match is, or how irrelevant. So depending on what league it might be that you're playing in for the team or whatever, and there's 2 tiers of such in it. All Ireland, where you might want to be at the top, and making sure you're winning matches in the other kind of lesser league that doesn't matter as much. But I suppose again, it's just always maybe a bit of a winning mentality and making sure that you're better than your opposite number. And I suppose as someone that's been a captain quite a lot, is to make sure that I kind of lead by example for the other guys around me, and make sure that they we're better as a team than the opposition, 1 to 15 across the pitch. So it's probably making sure that I don't go hiding, so that I don't give other people an excuse to go hiding in that kind of way.
Is there a moment that stands out for you in all the years you've involved in sports?
Again, probably wearing an Irish jersey is something pretty special, and again winning the Schools Cup. But there's probably, at the time, they were probably the best things. But there's one just from when I played for Irish under-19s against Australia at Ravenhill, and the relevance of it didn't make very much sense to me at the time. But after the match, we'd been quite substantially beat by them, and David Pocock was their captain at the time, and obviously we didn't know who he was, and he came in after the match and told us how great we'd played, and which was, at the time we kind of thought, well, that was quite a nice thing to do or whatever. And now when you look back at it 10 years later, and he's the current Australia captain, and the relevance of who he is, again, kind of shows you the morals and values of the game of rugby, that he could come in after that, even though it beat the heck out of us pretty much.
What moment stands the most out the most for you?
Again, probably that as well. But I don't know. I've got a young son now, and I think it's pretty good that all he wants to talk about is to play rugby as well. So again, wearing an Irish jersey is pretty special. I think it's probably the friends and things that you meet along the way as well is pretty special too.
Is there anything else you'd like to achieve or see happen in the next coming years of your sporting?
Well, as a player, I'm getting towards the end of my career. I've had a couple of shoulder surgeries and things, so I'm more into the social end of rugby at the minute now, getting that way. But as a coach, I work for Ulster Rugby, so I work with all the representative teams, 16s, 17s, 18s, right through. So watching players coming the whole way through that, and probably progressing in the professional contracts, and then furthering themselves, maybe playing for Ulster and Ireland would be something that I'll be able to achieve, where I can maybe say, I maybe helped that guy get to where he is along his path at some stage, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people looking to go far in sports?
Just don't rest on your laurels. I can remember how hard it was whenever after playing for Irish underage teams for 2 years and getting a phone call saying I hadn't been selected for the under-20s teams, and I think it was probably a bit of comfort for me, where I'd sat back and maybe not worked as hard. So don't rest on your laurels, I suppose. And as again, a rugby man through and through, has probably experienced the whole thing. So it's not just about being in the gym and playing on the pitch. There's the whole social aspect of rugby as well, where you learn a hell of a lot more out of that as well than you could ever learn on the pitch, you know, that kind of thing. So just to drink it in as much as they can, I suppose.